you study the story of Joseph. And I'm getting way behind, so let's move on. So let's go down to verse 20. They journeyed from Sukkot and encamped in Etham at the edge of the wilderness. Adonai went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them on the way, and by night a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel day and night. He did not remove the pillar of cloud by day, the pillar of fire by night before the children of Israel. Chapter 14, verse 1. Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel, let them turn back and encamp before Pi-hahiroth. This is not good graphics, by the way. This makes no logical sense. But God always has a plan, doesn't he? Between Migdol and the sea, before Baal-zephon, you shall encamp opposite by the sea. Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are imprisoned in the land. The wilderness has locked them in. I shall strengthen the heart of Pharaoh. He will pursue them, and I will be glorified through Pharaoh and his entire army. And Egypt will know that I am Adonai. So they did. So they camped there. They look up, and then they see the cavalry, the most powerful fighting force in the world, descending on them. All they've known is slavery. They don't know how to fight. They don't know much of anything. They know how to make bricks. They're fighting Egyptian warriors. That's above their pay grade. And so what they do, they panic. Oh, they all become prophets too. Did you know fear just makes you a prophet? Yeah, look what it says there, verse 11. They said to Moses, were there no graves in Egypt that you took us to die in the wilderness? What is this that you have done to us, taking us out of Egypt? Is this not the statement that we made to you? Didn't we prophesy this? I know when people get afraid, I knew this was going to happen. We're all going to die. This is horrible. I saw it coming. Well, fear may make you a prophet, but it'll usually make you a false one. Verse 13, Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. Stand fast, be still, in other words, and behold the Yeshua of Adonai, that he will perform for you today. For as you have seen Egypt today, you shall not see them ever again. Adonai shall do battle for you, and you shall remain silent. And then he lifts his staff over the sea, it splits, and you know the story. You saw the movie. Now let's skip to the very end of the Torah portion. And let's go over to chapter 17, verse 8. Now when you read this in the Hebrew, what strikes you is the suddenness of this. There's no lead up to this. It's like the story just shifts gears instantaneously. It's like a completely different plot comes into the story. I mean, they're talking, and God's angry with the people. Then just says verse 8, Amalek came and battled Israel in Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, this is the first time Joshua's name is mentioned in the Bible. Moses said to Joshua, choose people for us. I like that. No, Joshua, the name Joshua and the name Yeshua are the same name. It goes through the little spelling transitions, but always means the same thing in salvation. But Moses tells Joshua, choose people for us, for you and for me. And the people God chooses, the people Yeshua chooses, are people to follow Yeshua and to follow Moses, according to the Torah. You know what I mean? And he didn't say pick people to follow you and not me. He said pick people to follow us. And do battle with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand. So the staff of God plays a part in this battle as well, doesn't it? Joshua did as Moses said to him to do battle with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur ascended to the top of the hill. It happened that when Moses raised his hand, Israel was stronger. And when he lowered his hand, Israel was weaker. Is that what it says? That's not what it says. When he raised his hand, Israel was stronger. When he lowered his hand, Amalek was stronger. It's almost like there's a strength being apportioned out, and it'll all go to Israel as long as the hands of Moses are held up. We relax the hands of Moses, the strength passes to the enemy. And then it says in verse 12, Moses' hands grew chavod. Now, kavod is the word for glory, but it's also the word for weight. It grew heavy. So they took a stone, put it under him, he sat on it, and Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on this side and one on that side, and he remained with his hands faithful. Amunah is the word there. Faithful until sunset. Joshua weakened Amalek and his people with a sword's mouth. Now, let's look at some of the differences here. Of course, you've named one of them already. With Egypt, God fights. And with Amalek, the people fight. And one of the things, too, that it's important to remember is this. Now, was Israel related to Egypt in any way? Was there any family relation to Egypt? No. No relationship at all. In fact, you have to go all the way back to Noah to find a connection between the children of Shem and then the children of Ham. And the Egyptians come from Ham. So there's no family relationship. But how about Amalek? Very close family relationship. It wasn't through Lot. You're thinking of Moab. That's Moab. Yeah, Amalek. Amalek was the grandson of Esau. Okay, Esau's grandson. And Esau, as you remember, is Jacob's twin brother. So from Jacob come the Israelites. From Esau come some different groups, but the grandson of Esau is Amalek. And so Israel and Amalek are cousins. By the way, Amalek, what does the name mean? We know what Am means. Am means people. And Lek comes from Lechak, which means to lick up. We get our English word lick from this. People of licking up, like dogs. People of licking up. Everything about Amalek is a picture of the flesh. The flesh that's running rampant and doing its own thing. When you see the name Amalek in Scripture, think this stuff. I bear no relationship to Satan, which is pictured by Pharaoh. This stuff, I'm pretty close to this stuff. I like my flesh. All right? And I like to indulge it. And when I feel tired, I want to sleep. When I feel hungry, I want to eat. When I feel like not working, I want to not work. I want to do things my way. But you see, when you do things according to the flesh, that makes you an animal. And we weren't called to be animals. We're called to be human beings. Amen. And the Torah is God's discipleship manual. Yes. The handbook for being a human being. Horses, you don't have to train a horse how to be a horse. Or a bird how to be a bird, or a cat how to be a cat. They will grow up, they will eat, they will live, they will reproduce, the birds will make nests, they'll lay their eggs, they'll raise their young. Nobody has to send them to a course to learn that. But humans cannot be successful humans without training. We have to be trained, because we're not just of the flesh. We are not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings on a human journey. That's right. And we need a manual to tell us how to live in this human world. And that manual is given to us in the first 5 books. And all the rest of that course, but that foundation. The Torah is our handbook on how to be a successful human being. Amen. Right? Amen. And I'm really getting off track here. When's your bedtime? What? Okay, are we okay? All right. Now, Egypt was defeated. They never had to worry about Egypt again. But go 17, verse 14. And listen to what God says to Moses. Verse 14, Adonai said to Moses, write this as a remembrance of the book and recite it in the ears of Joshua, that I will surely erase. In Hebrew, it's erasing, I will erase. Blotting out, I'll blot out. I will certainly blot out the memory of Amalek from under the heavens. Did you know when a Jewish scribe is making Torah scrolls or to fill in, when he makes a new quill pen, he has to use a penknife and, cut the feather, the quill, so it can write. The first thing he does to test out that quill, you know what he does? He gets a scrap piece of parchment, dips the quill in the ink, writes the name Amalek, and then crosses it out. And then he says, okay, we're ready to go. But they cross out the name Amalek all the time. He says, so I'm going to wipe it out from under heaven. Wipe out the memory of Amalek. Well, wait a minute. Look what it says next. Verse 15, Moses built an altar, called his name Adonai is my miracle, Adonai Nisi. And he said, for a hand is on the throne of God. Adonai maintains a war against Amalek from generation to generation. Well, which is it? Does he wipe them out, their entire memory? Or is it an ongoing war? Well, it's an ongoing war from generation to generation until God wipes them out from their memories. That only happened in the world to come. So we see with Amalek, this is the enemy that you and I have to always be aware of. Now Moses' staff, I'll just abbreviate here, M's staff. How much was it used in the battle against Pharaoh? Just momentarily. He held it out however long it was over the Red Sea and split, and that was that. He didn't have to stand there all day. But how about in the battle against Amalek? All day long. He could not afford to lower his hands at all holding that staff. You can't afford to lower your hands. Do you see what this is picturing? The staff of Moses, the hands of Moses. This is a picture of the Torah. Because God took his Torah, his tablets, and put them in Moses' hands. Right? And the hands of Moses are a picture of holding up the Torah. When you begin to relax that, guess what happens to the flesh? It just rises up, gets strong. But when we're walking in the Spirit, which is in obedience to the Torah, then we're strong. You see? But when we relax our hands, the strength passes them to the flesh. Now, Pharaoh was a past master. But Amalek is a would-be master. He would love to be in charge and be in control. And let me ask you this. What happened right before the Battle of the Sea? What was the big event in Israel that happened just before they went out of Egypt across the sea? Passover lamb. So it was preceded by, I'll just put Pesach, that's shorter. The Pesach lamb. What happened right before the Battle of Amalek? Yes, from water from what? The rock. Moses strikes the rock. So I'll just put here strikes the rock. I want you to puzzle over that a little bit. Because when you slay the lamb, out comes blood. When you strike the rock, out comes water. And we understand the Passover lamb pretty well. We're a Messianic, right? We do Seder's every year. We review this. And we talk about how the blood of the lamb placed on the doors for God to see is what passed them from death to life. God saw the blood. No death comes into their home. But the body of the lamb was kept into the house. They roasted it. They ate it because they needed energy to leave slavery. So the body of the lamb is a picture of the Word of God walking in the life of Yeshua. And that gave them strength to walk from slavery into freedom. By the way, how many times in Israel's history did they put blood on their doors? One time. One time. How many times did they eat lamb at Passover? Year after year after year after year after year. You see, the death of our Passover lamb, Yeshua, only got to happen once.
Hallelujah.
But we need to feed on his strength all the time.
Yes.
Unless you want to go back into slavery. Do you know people who have been passed from death to life, but they're still slaves? They put the blood on the door, but they didn't bother eating the lamb and just chewing on the lamb and just, and Messiah said that his flesh was food indeed. We need to feed upon who Yeshua is. He is the Word made flesh. So it's a picture of chewing on the Word. Building the Word into our lives. That's what gives us strength to walk in freedom. The Torah is a liberating document if we'll walk in it. Now, we're going to stop right there. And over the weekend you can go back to different passages. You'll find many more parallels and opposites between these two battles. But we'll come back to this in a moment. But first of all, let's talk about Egypt. Let's talk a little bit more about the Egyptian head game. I call it a head game because though Pharaoh was defeated, though his army, his cavalry was destroyed, he was still an effective enemy. Do you know how it was? How Pharaoh worked in the minds of the Israelites? What happened every time they got in a tight spot? Those memories of Egypt came up. Somehow they managed to forget the brick making and the slave drivers and the whips and the death and the misery. They remembered, remember what they wanted to go eat? Oh, the leeks, the garlic, the onions, the fish, and we ate all we wanted. It was wonderful. What were we thinking? Now the enemy, Pharaoh's in their heads. It's a head game. And I want to challenge you that your only war with Satan is a matter of deception and truth.
Yes.
Look at this. It's all about deception and truth. Let's look at a few passages. Now, Hebrews 2, 14, 15. I know you're familiar with this passage, but I want you to look for the Passover overtones, the Pesach overtones. Since therefore the children share in flesh and blood, he himself likewise partook of the same things. He became flesh and blood. The Word became flesh and blood.
Yes.
But we already saw too that the Passover lamb was slain and it provided the blood, but then later the rock was struck and it provided the water. He himself partook of the same things that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death. Destroy him. Got that? Destroy him. That is the devil. And deliver all those who through fear of death were subject to lifelong slavery. So the flesh and blood, the Passover lamb, they ate his flesh, put the blood on the doors. But Hebrews, the writer of Hebrews is telling us in no uncertain terms that our Messiah came, and because of what he did, our enemy, Satan, his effectiveness is destroyed. In fact, 1 John 5:18 says this: we know that everyone who has God as his Father does not go on sinning. Yeah, we mess up, right? But Proverbs says the righteous man falls down 7 times, but what does he do?
Gets back up.
He gets up 7 times, all right? He doesn't keep on just, this is just who I am, just lay there. That's not what he does. He says, this is not who I am. I'm getting up and I'm going to continue making progress. That's who I am. And on the contrary, the Son born of God protects him, and the evil one does not touch him. Doesn't touch him. Don't ever say the devil made you do it. He didn't make you do it. You did it. You chose to do it. Yeah. He was just, his voice was echoing in your brain. Say, come on back to the dark side. Come back. And it sounds so attractive. And I know so many people in recovery from addiction and so on. And they're so grateful for being free. But then later they fall. They completely forget all the misery of that life. And all they can remember is some of the feel-goods. You know what I mean? So, another passage. 2 Corinthians 10, 3-5. For though we walk in the flesh, we are not waging war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. Now here are three of the strongholds of all this. We destroy arguments. Right? Arguments in our brains. Not arguments with other people. The argument's going on here. This is the battlefield. Yes. The battlefield of my life is about this wide. What is that? 8 inches, 6 inches? That's how big. It's a little battlefield. But it's the battle of the ages that takes place right there in you too. Every lofty opinion. Where do opinions exist? Right here. Raised against the knowledge of God. Where does knowledge exist? Right here. And take every thought captive. Where do thoughts exist? Right here. This is the battle. This is why Messiah says to those who believe on him, if you continue in my word, you are my disciples indeed, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. Okay, you understand? Truth makes you free. Deception, when you believe it, makes you a slave every single time. Satan doesn't have to touch you. Remember, whatever Satan looked like in the Garden of Eden, I think he looked like a dragon. He probably had like hands and wings, and I mean, he was a beautiful creature. Whatever he looked like, though, we know that his wings or whatever got plucked, and he had to go on his belly from then on. His only weapon was his mouth. All he has is a mouth. Can't touch you. Can't make you do anything. But you see, if I can get you to believe a lie, I can get you to do anything. I always use an example. Forgive me if you've heard it before, but this is a perfect setting. Let's say a policeman comes through that door right now. Right? He's got his gun and badge and hat, the whole thing. There's this folks don't panic or stay in your seats. We've got some strong evidence that some terrorists got into this building and wired the seats with bombs. Okay? And after 8 o'clock, if you get up out of your seat, that is what can ignite that bomb and go off. As long as you stay in your seats, we're all safe. The bomb squad's on the way. Don't panic, just don't get up. Are you going to get out of your seat? Absolutely not. Are you going to make sure everybody next to you doesn't get out of their seat? You know what I mean? So let's say it goes on, and see, I'm okay. I'm not sitting down. I'm free. See, people are so anyways, it goes on 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, no bomb squad, 12 o'clock, 1 in the morning through. And finally another policeman comes in and says, "Saw all the lights on and everything. What are you people doing?" They sit there and look miserable. Oh, look like you need a restroom really bad. And we'll say, oh, the seats are wired with bombs. And the policeman came in here and said, "Okay." And he said, "Did that guy when he came in here, he's about that tall, have red hair and a scar on his cheek?" "Yeah, that's him." "Oh, he escaped from a loony bin. He's no cop. We were spewing that on him a couple hours ago. He's been going everywhere telling these lies." Now are you going to stay in your seats?
No.
Truth made you free. As long as you're believing a lie, you're controlled. But when you know the truth, you're free. And I know of believers who just don't continue in the Word. They don't know the truth. They're believing lies. Bless their hearts of believing lies, and they've lost so much freedom.
Yes.
So we have to understand something. We always talk about how when Messiah came, it changed man's relationship with God, right? It deepened our relationship with God, made it more intimate, made God more accessible. Our interaction, connection with God went through a transformation, a broadening. It's like the curtain was open, God says, "Come on in. Come in and be with me." But what we fail to understand is that our relationship with Satan changed as well.
Yes.
And his influence in our lives was destroyed, was broken, unless we believe his lies. He can't come and grab you. He can't come make you do squat. But he can sure tell the lies. And the echo of his voice in our ears from those years gone by and past sins. We start thinking, oh, the leeks, the garlics, and onions, bad breath. You understand? So, the battle is in the mind. This is why we need to fill our mind with God's Word. We have to fill it with God. Now, Satan can't touch choose to go back to slavery. Turn your back on God and go back there. I'm not saying lose your salvation. I don't know what goes on, but I just know you can become a slave, and he can become physically active in your life.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Amalek. In Psalm 95, verses 7 to 11, God is speaking and saying, if only today you would listen to his voice. Don't harden your hearts as you did at Meribah, as you did on that day at Massah. That's described here. Go back to Exodus, to our Torah portion. Verse 4. Chapter 17, verse 4. The people don't have any water. They're angry. They're whining. Moses cried out to Adonai, saying, what shall I do for this people? A bit more, and they will stone me. Adonai said to Moses, pass before the people, and take with you some of the elders of Israel. And in your hand take your staff with which you struck the river, and go. Now remember, when he struck the river, what happened to the water? It turned into blood. Now he's going to strike a rock, and that's going to become water. I mean, God can do amazing things. I'm going to pause here just for a second. Remember our outline? God can make bitter water sweet. Oh, mercy, what did I just turned off my iPad. Here, let's fix that. There we go. He can split the sea. Now, you don't see that happen in nature too often.
No.
He can make bitter waters, poisonous waters, sweet and drinkable. That's contrary to nature. He can just make flocks of quail come right up at dinner time, so you have meat. And he can make manna rain from heaven in the morning for 40 years.
Yes.
He's showing them that let me back this up. You know why they wanted to go back to Egypt? There's one thing in Egypt they always had. Besides all the misery and having to make bricks and death and everything else, there's something good they always had. You know what it was? Security. Yeah, which included food, roof over their head, predictable schedule, security. But when you leave Egypt and go out in the wilderness, your security is not in your surroundings. It's not in the schedule. You don't even know where you're going to be sleeping tomorrow night. You got to look to see if the clouds moved or not. You don't know what's going to happen next. So your security now doesn't come from your physical surroundings. It comes from God's mouth, God's word. Faith in God alone. That's where your security is to be.
Yes.
You know, God will test us. I know people whose houses burned down. They lost all their stuff. I know people who went bankrupt, lost all their money. I know people who became deathly ill. They lost their health. They lost their jobs, lost their paychecks. And God will take us through losses. But the question is, will we respond as people who have learned the lesson that the Israelites were trying to learn here? Or will we repeat their errors and faithlessness? So let's continue. Verse 6, behold, I shall stand before you by the rock in Horeb. You shall strike the rock, and water will come forth from it, and the people will drink. Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. He called the place Massah. That means testing. You know, where they call the place Adonai Nisi, Adonai my miracle, or Adonai my banner. Well, the word Nassah also means to test. So you want to call God your miracle and God my banner, he's also your tester.
Yes.
All right? He will test you. Everything's a test. Every decision you make is a test. So you know what you should do? Pass the test.
Right.
Pass the test. So they call it Masa, which means testing, Meribah, from the word rave, to split, to contend, to tear apart. Because they quarreled with the children of Israel because of the test of Adonai, saying, here are the 5 words in Hebrew. Hayesh Yesh Adonai v'kir benu im ein. Is God among us or not? When they said those 5 words, Amalek text. Is God among us or not? Those are probably about the 5 most wicked words you can ever say. That's probably one of those wicked thoughts you can ever think. Is God with me or not? Are you kidding? He brought the plagues in Egypt. He passed all your firstborn from death to life, including your animals. Split the Red Sea. He's made bitter water sweet. He's brought quail. He's brought manna. He's brought water from the rock. And you're asking, is God with me or not? There's the cloud. There's the pillar of fire, for Pete's sake. Are you kidding me? And yet we tend to do the same thing. We forget God's track record, so we start thinking about the security of Egypt. Is God with us or not? In the Mishnah, there's a story told about a little boy who's riding on his father's shoulders. And the little boy asks a stranger, says, "Have you seen my father anywhere?" So the father became angry and threw him down in the dirt. And said, "Okay, can you see me now?" You know? And are you kidding? Every breath we draw, every beat of our heart, every day we wake up, we're given the gift of a new day because God has ordained for that to happen. Amen. He is, one rabbi said, we have trouble seeing God not because he's so far away, but because he's so close. Yeah. Amen. And that's the truth. That's the truth. Don't we ever ask, is God in our midst or not? Is God within us or not? Is he near or not? Of course he is. He's promised that he is. Yes, so that's subtle. That's subtle. That's a fact. That's a truth. Well, let's go back where we were. And Deuteronomy 25, 17 to 18. You can just jot down the reference, but Moses commands the Israelites, remember what Amalek did to you on the road. And they list 5 things. This helps us understand how Amalek operates. What Amalek did to you on the road as you were coming out of Egypt, because they were coming out of Egypt, what were they? Ex-slaves and nothing more. Yep. Yeah. They had no skill with weapons or anything. All they knew is how to make bricks and babies. They knew that. Bricks and babies. That's what they knew to do. And that's not much help against Amalek. So Amalek took advantage of their spiritual infancy, and they're just learning to walk in freedom. They'll take advantage of your weaknesses every time. So someone who's young in the faith is especially prone to the attacks of Amalek. That's why those of you who are strong in the faith, been walking this way for a while, need to come alongside and help them, and disciple them, and encourage them, help bear their burdens. Because they're especially prone to the attacks of the flesh. They don't understand the dynamics yet. And how he met you on the road. How did he meet them on the road? Well, according to tradition, he simply attacked. It's unprovoked. There's no lead up here. He just attacked, and there's no reason to attack. They had done nothing to Amalek. I haven't mistreated my flesh. In fact, I probably treated it a little too well. So why does it attack me? Why is it trying to destroy my walk with God? But Paul tells us that the flesh has strong desires that are contrary to the spirit. The spirit has strong desires contrary to the flesh. So if I walk in the spirit, I won't fulfill the lusts of the flesh. Our problem is we don't want to do either one. I don't want to be fleshly, but I don't want to be spiritual. There's no third choice here. It'll be one or the other. It doesn't say if you fight the flesh, then you'll walk in the spirit. That doesn't work. Then you can, what's that, flagellation, where you beat yourself, and just punish your body? That doesn't make you spiritual. Walking in the spirit makes you spiritual. Walking in the spirit means submitting my will to God's will, my ways to his ways, doing things his way, following him. When I do that, Amalek is weakened, because I'm made strong. You understand? It's not rocket science. If I preach myself, I forget this stuff all the time. But it says also, and he attacked those in the rear. So he blindsides you. The flesh will attack when you least expect it. It will attack when you're not ready for it. When you've let your guard down, when you've blinked, that's when the flesh can attack. And who did it attack? Those who were exhausted and straggling behind when you were tired and weary. It exploits weaknesses. And then Moses says he did not fear God. That makes him worse than demons. Because James says the demons believe and they tremble.
Yes,
They're afraid. Amalek has no fear of God. This is what's so amazing about me. You know, people try to ask, how can Yeshua be divine? How can the word, spiritual, God, how can that become flesh? I don't know how I became a man. I don't understand how my spirit dwells in my body. I don't know how that works. So how am I supposed to explain Yeshua? I can't explain it. Nobody can explain me. But it's so strange. It's like, even though I have a fear of God, it's like my flesh will still tempt me to do something because it has no fear of God in it. I have a fear of God, it doesn't. And if I were to allow it, or you were allowed just to follow your fleshly desires, you'd become worse than an devil. You understand what I'm saying? Your flesh has no fear of God. So you better develop a healthy fear of God.
That's right.
And a healthy love for God.
Yeah.
Because your flesh won't. So let's go back to our chart. Let's fill in a few more blanks. What we have on this chart so far are like the historical things that happen that you get right from the scriptures. Let's get some spiritual applications. One of the things we realize is that, yeah, Pharaoh is still an enemy, and he can be an effective one, even though he's destroyed, even though Satan has been rendered powerless. His voice can still resonate in our heads. So here we have an internal enemy. But the flesh is an exterior enemy. It's out here on the outside. Now, I don't want to hurt the feelings of any of you who really like the NIV. All right? So if you do have an NIV, just cover the cover. Just don't let anybody see you got one. So, one of the things, if I could go and change NIV, and there are several things, but one of the things that really gripes me is that every place in the Greek where it refers to the flesh, the NIV uses the term sin nature. Now, you get those two confused. I mean, first of all, the term sin nature isn't found in Scripture. And that's another debate as to whether we have one or not. But the word flesh is what is described as our enemy. When you take the word flesh out and put sin nature in, things get real confusing. How can you battle a sin nature? It's my nature. How can I fight that? I can resist the flesh. I understand that. But the sin nature? What is that? And you look at how can I fight the sin nature? There's no information. The Scripture tells me how to be strong against the flesh, how to have victory over it. That's your enemy. We find that Pharaoh, Satan, there's a continual battle. It's an ongoing battle, but it's a battle in the mind. But this is a continuing battle in the what? Yes, in the flesh. It all ends when you're dead, by the way. That's the good news. Right? The flesh dies. You know, we're all born with an expiration date on these bodies. Thank God. And this battle is over. What are Satan's tactics? Satan's tactics. Only one word here. Deception. He's the father of the lie. He created the lie. It's his only weapon. You know, his only weapon he's got is the lie. He has no other weapon except the lie. Well, what are the tactics of Amalek, of the flesh? First of all, this may surprise you, but doubt and also temptation. Fleshliness, lust. I'll just put the word lust. Doubt and lust. In fact, I don't know if you ever look at the numeric values of words, but Amalek, the word Amalek has a numerical value of 240, which happens to be exactly the same numerical value of the Hebrew word Suffolk, which is doubt. Which is a word that doesn't appear in the Bible, but you can look up in the Hebrew English dictionary. Doubt. Because you see, what did the Israelites do that made Amalek attack? Is God with us or not? I doubt it. When you begin to doubt how close God is, how intimate He is, how much He's watching you and loves you, you would not do half the things you do when you forget He's watching. There are things you might do in a session of advice that you would never do up here in front of all of us. Why? Because you can see us watching you. But when you begin to doubt that God's watching you, or that He really cares what you do, or nothing's going to happen if you do it, then lust raises its ugly head and begins to take charge. See? All right. One more. What is our defense against Satan? Truth. We don't out screaming. We don't try to bind him. We out truth him. Okay? Darkness in the Scriptures is generally a picture of deception in lives. And how do you fight that? With light. Truth is light. Deception is darkness. And you know, I know I've used the term of critical people and bind Satan. I don't do that anymore. Binding Satan, that is. But when you go back to Matthew chapter 12, where Yeshua talks about binding the strong man, you look at the Scripture closely, you know who the strong man is? It's you. You're the strong man. When you're bound, then he can just play havoc in your life. God wants you to be free. And then you can resist him. Then what does he do? He runs. Yeah. He runs away from you. His only weapon's a mouth. What have you got? Oh, I got a helmet, and I got a belt of truth, and a breastplate of righteousness, shield of faith, sword of the Spirit. I mean, I'm ready for battle. But if I don't realize that, if I buy the lie, I can't do anything. And Satan's like, you know, then he's going to win every time. When I look in the Scriptures, I find he's the defeated enemy. He's a snake. He goes on his belly. He wants me to go by my belly as well. But I'm not going to. And I look, I've got armor here. I mean, he doesn't stand a chance against me. If I'll walk in God's Spirit and obey him and walk in righteousness and realize he's with me all the time. The enemy doesn't stand a chance. What's our defense against Amalek? Obedience. Of course, you have to have truth to know what you're supposed to obey. All right, that goes without saying, but it's obedience. Obedience. Submitting to God's Torah. Well, should I just stop now, or should we go a little bit further? I mean, I can stop anywhere along the way here, but it just depends whether you get done listening before I get done talking. I'm listening. Okay. Up on the hill. Moses isn't down in the battle. No, he was right at the focal point of the battle with Egypt, right? But here he's removed from the battle. He's up on the hill. People are following Joshua in the battle here. They're following Yeshua in the battle. They're following his lead. And if you want to be successful against Amalek, follow Yeshua's lead. How did he battle temptation? Quoting the Torah. Doing what God wanted him to do all the time. And in those ordained moments where the enemy was allowed to come and tempt him, he used the word, he used the Torah. So we follow his lead. But Moses is up on the mountain. I looked up the names of Hur. It's actually Hur, with a sound, and Aaron. And Hur means hollowed out. Hollowed out, emptied out. It's a root for the word for cave, actually. A cave is a hollowed out area. But Aaron, there's there's a lot of debate as to what his name actually means, so I'll give you a couple possibilities. First of all, in the middle of his name is the word Har, which means mountain. And it seems to be something that's mountainous. Mountain of strength is one of the translations of his name. Mountain of strength. But the word light, or is the word for light, and there seems to be something about light in his name, so other people translate his name as enlightened. And maybe that's it. When I think of a mountain of strength, something that's hollowed out, you talk about two opposite ends of the spectrum. Two complete opposites. A mountain is land surrounded by air. Hollowed out is just air surrounded by rock or land. They're complete opposites of one another. And yet Moses, he is holding up his hands, holding the staff of God. Use your imaginations. Okay? I can't draw hands, I'll draw arrows. All right? And this is the staff. This is the focal point of so much of what God does in the life of Israel. From Egypt through the wilderness and on. But Moses required assistance. Couldn't stand back and let Moses do it for us. So Aaron comes along to support Moses' hand on one side and her on the other. These are pictures of us. So part of you just feels empty and hollowed out. Good, close to. Vessels only have value if they're empty. That's your potential. Right? On the other hand, when you look at who you are in the Lord, your identity in Him, and that God sent His only Son because He loved you so very, very much. And that Satan is just His sheepdog to assist you in your walk. And He gave you the Word. He's given you one another. He's given us so much. On the one hand, like a mountain of strength. There's a story, I don't know where it comes from. The rabbis say that basically you should go around with two pieces of paper in your pockets. One in this pocket, one in this pocket. And the piece of paper in this pocket says, I am nothing. And then the piece of paper in this pocket says, the world was created for my sake. And they said, always hold both of them. Because you just read one and not the other. It's deception. When you realize, compared to God, I'm nothing.
Absolutely.
And yet, He established the world for my sake. He had me born, to the parents that He born to, in the place that He chose, at the time He chose, with the gender that He chose, with the DNA that He chose, and the environment that He chose, with the gifts that He chose,
Yep.
and with the people around me that He chose. Everything established in my life exactly as should be to help train me to become who God wants me to be.
Amen.
Now you can stand up here and say exactly the same thing I do. I'm just a prop in your life. God put me here just for this moment in time to be a part of your life. Of course, Robin, she has me for 37 years so far and counting. So she can't get rid of me. I'm not just a prop there. I'm a little bit more than that, I hope. But everyone who comes into your space is something ordained of God. Even if it's the consequence of your own foolishness, that consequence is there to teach you. Don't do that again.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
We'll get loose. But don't get proud because you're really just dust.
Yeah.
Right? When you start thinking, I'm just nothing, I'm just a floor mat. This is no, I'm accomplishing great things. What if I reveal before the universe what I accomplished that you don't even know about? Mm-hmm. Right? Amen. So, we know everything has another side to it. You want to see something that's really cool here? When you read the scriptures, you see Moses sitting on the rock holding up the staff, and here's Aaron, and here's her holding up his hand, so Joshua and the Israelites can be handled. Here's a wonderful picture, too. You can make up a bunch Moses' name and spell it backwards, what does it spell? Hashem. Right? The name. And we know who Hashem is, correct?
Yeah.
When you take Hur, spell his name backwards, you get the word Ruach.
Oh.
Right? Like Ruach Kodesh. The same spelling, just backwards. Now, Aaron's a little more complicated. When you spell Aaron's name backwards, it's Nun Resh, which is the word Ner, which means lamp. The blessing. We kindle Ner Shil Shabbat, the lamps of the Sabbath, right? Ner. The letter Hey means the, lamp of the what? Of the olive. Olive, the name of olive means master or Lord. The lamp of the master, the lamp of the Lord. So, you might just see three men there, but there's a shadowing here that in the heavenly places, God, through His Spirit, and the Messiah who's at His right hand, so I guess I should put the lamp of the Lord over on the other side. But, and we're seated in heavenly places with Him. And they're watching over us. They're cheering us on. They're pulling for us. And I tell you what, as we battle Amalek in this world, you begin to realize who's watching. This isn't Sandlot football. This makes the Super Bowl look like Sandlot football. What an amazing thing. What an amazing thing. And they stand together, Echad. They stand as one. They stand as one. It's one unit in Amunah, in faithfulness. And Moshe, his hands were heavy. Remember that word heavy is called glory. Hands of glory stretched above us. What an amazing picture. How could we lose? That's good enough. We'll stop there. Everybody's tired. We're just going to close in prayer and then turn it over to the Lord. Our Father and King, we thank you so much for the wonder of your word, for the beauty of your Torah. And as David prayed, Adonai, open my eyes, unveil my eyes, that I may behold wonders in your Torah. And I pray, Father, that for the rest of our lives we would be explorers, searching the depths of your Torah, not just so we can have knowledge, but, Father, that we can just know you better. The more we know you, the more we love you. The more we love you, the more our one fear is that we would ever disappoint you and hurt your kingly heart. We thank you for being such a good Father to us. And we praise you and we thank you so much for your blessings and goodness to us. In Yeshua's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Let's give Grant another hand. So how many learned something? Way back. Learned something? Man, would you stand? We're going to go ahead and dismiss, and we want to send you out with a song.